What are the changes you brought about at Next Digital since you took it over? Earlier, it was seen as a kind of it wasn't seen as a professional company. It was seen as a company which was there, which was a provider. It was still seen as an entrepreneurial company. But since you've come in, I think it's got a lot of veneer of professionalism, and you've set in systems, and you've got the support of the management, and you've also set the tone right. So what have you done right at Next Digital over the past, how many years has it been? 4 years?
Well, it's in the 4th year now running.
Yeah. So over to you. I want to talk less. You have to talk more.
Thank you, Anil. And thanks to Indian television. Anil, in 2014 at IDOS in Goa, I'm not sure if you remember, but you opened the session, the entire event, saying that the future will belong to those who innovate, and those who don't innovate will perish. These were your words, okay? And if you go back to IDOS, you'll see that there. And it's something that we've done, Anil, right? As Next Digital, we've metamorphosized from a cable company, traditional distribution company, into a digital platforms company. We don't use the term cable anymore. We use the term digital television, right? And digital television can be delivered via digital cable or by head end in the sky. It doesn't really matter. So over the last 3.5 years, we've focused on that metamorphosis to be able to provide digital solutions to consumers and to our franchisees. And we've made that metamorphosis over the last 3 years. It's not been easy because obviously we had to do a lot of re-engineering. We had to do a lot of unlearn, relearn, reapply to the business. Couple of things that we did, for instance, which is really good today. More than 35% of our workforce today is upskilled in digital technology. They know what digital means. It's not that they use the term digital loosely. They know what digital means. We've gone through the process of becoming a 100% prepaid model. We've gone through the process of becoming a digital payments mechanism company. And every event serves as a trigger point for growth. So if you look at the Asian Games, that served as a trigger point for color television coming into India. London Olympics served as a trigger point for 4K and 8K being tested. The same thing we've seen in Japan, etc. And now we're seeing the next level. So for us, the pandemic was actually one of those trigger points to actually take it to the next level. So we realized that consumer preferences and consumer requirements were changing. So we said, listen, we need to stay ahead of the curve. So we launched our work from home bundle, which was not just digital television and broadband, but also included a lot of content that was relevant to people working from home, whether it was education channels, whether it was information channels, all of that. And down the line, we've been able to change our entire process and complete that transition into a digital company, right? Today, when you look at it, we're a 100% prepaid model. Our platform, thanks to our head end in the sky, is in over 4,500 pin codes across the country. Everything is seamless because we use digital technology by and large to kind of manage the whole process. But I think just going back to your point of what did we do right, the last 1.5 years has been the pandemic. And 3 things we realized in the pandemic, which has taken us till today. One is that digital aspirations, Anil, are not just for the city dweller. Digital aspirations have also extended to tier 2, tier 3, and tier 4 markets, which are poorly connected markets, right? Poorly connected in terms of whether it be television or whether it be broadband, they've been poorly connected. That was number one, the first learning that we had. The second learning is that platforms like ours and others were facing challenges because of these changing preferences, right? And therefore, it forced us to look at new strategies for growth, forced us to look at new technology products. And the third most important thing, customers want a single window. They do not want to deal with multiple people for multiple products and solutions. That's gone. And that was the challenge that allowed us to rethink our objective and rethink our focus. And, that's where we are today. We've been able in the last 1 year to launch some very interesting solutions. And I'll just share them with you, Anil, if you allow me. We launched 3 things that really have changed the game for us. The first thing is we realized that it was so important to support markets outside of the cities because 60% of our base actually comes from semi-urban, semi-rural and rural India, which, by the way, are not just the most aspirational, but also where significant growth is still to be achieved. So we focused on those markets very, very strongly and effectively. And we even went to the extent of setting up these digital Next hubs. We call them a Next hub. It's basically a point of presence of Next Digital, where we set up our own, it's a device called Advanced Digital Delivery System, this piece of technology that we place in there, which today delivers not just digital television up to about 650 television channels, but it also delivers broadband and OTT. So already consumers there, through a network of last mile owners or digital service providers, as we call them, are getting access to our television, our broadband service, and our over-the-top service, which could be multiple platforms. I think you're aware we partnered. And as a happy byproduct of that, or actually as something that was, if you look at backward integration, we launched a combo product. That combo product today for consumers, a typical consumer in Mumbai, from a single window can access up to 700 television channels. He can get broadband with speeds up to 1000 Mbps, and he can get OTT, about 300,000 hours of content from the best OTT platforms in his regional language, in his regional genre. Now that is a very important backward integration step. And we took it one step further. We said, not only that, there's a whole bunch of customers in cities who want to be able to experience the next generation of technology. And we launched our advanced Android set-top box in the last week of December. We also launched a very innovative product called a television stick, where a lot of people have invested in smart TVs, which is the wave of the future. You can plug in this television stick and you can get access to your linear television as well. So I think we've been very cognizant of the fact that times are changing and we need to be at the forefront. We need to be able to harness technology and be able to deliver an experience to customers where customers are demanding. It is up to us to be able to fulfill that demand. So that is how we've been able to make the transition, Anil, over the last 3.5, 4 years.
And how have the LMOs reacted to your taking Next Digital to a next generation video, broadband, and other services provider? How have they reacted, and how has it been a challenge for you, or has it been a lot of door knocking, which has got them to, and a lot of sitting down with them, having beers with them, and convincing them? How has it been?
So, Anil, it was, the initial days were difficult. We had to, for example, I'll give you a simple example. When the lockdown happened, we told our last mile owners and digital service providers, it's imperative that, to ensure safety and social distancing, to move to a digital collection mechanism from the subscribers. We partnered with a couple of companies, EasyPay and others at that point in time, EaseBuzz, sorry, and LazyPay. We partnered with them to help our LMOs. We conducted over 150 online workshops for our last mile owners to understand the importance of being able to collect payments digitally, or being able to do that. And now when we launched the product, which is the combo product, which is broadband plus OTT plus digital television, the funny part is the reaction now is that I'm getting is, what next? What else can we offer our consumers? They've been asking about, they're hearing about the Prime Minister has the scheme called the PM Vani scheme, which is for Wi-Fi access in across the country. And they've been hearing about things in terms of surveillance being another wave. So they're very excited to be a part of it, because they've realized that while their absolute value of revenue or their absolute growth has actually improved, while individual verticals may have seen some amount of softening, the fact is, when going with a combo product like a department store concept, their ticket size is increasing, Anil. That has helped them to look at this business very differently.
Okay, so ARPUs have gone northwards, and how are your partners reacting to it in terms of the content providers, as well as the the guys who are offering you the pipe for the broadband? How has that been in terms of evolution, growth, etc., in their revenue streams?
So we have been able to see significant, I won't say significant growth, and I'll use the term steady growth because that is the right term in terms of this business. In terms of partnerships, I think our partners have been very supportive. In fact, we worked with them to design packages that were effective and that were required during the lockdown, for instance. So they've been able to work with us very effectively and understand the ground, right? They understand the ground very, very strongly and were able to kind of support us on that. We've also, Anil, we got permission finally last April for infrastructure sharing. We've got our approvals from everyone. We're really hoping that our broadcaster partners see the importance of it. See, as someone mentioned, I think Rajdeep on the previous, the previous conference was mentioning that it's so important. And the government has come out now with infrastructure sharing for MSOs as well, just in December. I think broadcasters will be a beneficiary to that. They need to understand that everyone's facing challenges. And rather than DPOs saying, I can't service X clients because the cost of connectivity is too high, it's better to say, I can service those customers through infrastructure sharing and therefore continue to earn my revenues. I think we'll see that happening. I think broadcasters at the top of the pyramid understand it. It's the metrics that need to be worked out. It's the kind of innards of such a model that needs to be worked out. But I think the kind of support mechanism, everyone understands that the industry is changing. And everyone wants to ride on the wave that will perhaps take them to the next level, Anil. So that is where we see, that aspect of relationships.
Yeah, but the fact that are you seeing are the broadcast partners and are seeing a significant uptake in the kind of revenues you're providing to them? Is there an uptick, or is it's still plateaued over there? Because at the end of the day, collections from the ground are very crucial. You've got prepayments. So have they seen an uptick?
So if you've tracked the numbers of the business that we are in, I'm looking at Next Digital specifically for a moment, we've seen growth quarter on quarter, right? Now the growth quarter on quarter, Anil, is not necessarily just the video business. It's also the broadband usage, and it's also in the last quarter, we've seen OTT. So the absolute value would have gone up by vertical. That, yes, like I said, would see some level of softening if you look at each individual one. But when you say the entire pie has improved, it's not that the pie has gone smaller. It's the stakes are getting bigger, right? And I think that is one very important thing, that if you're able to do it, you're going to see broadcasters automatically getting the benefit of that. We've seen in the last quarter that there's been an improvement in revenues. We've seen events that have triggered it off, whether it's the IPL, whether it's other shows, etc. So I think we're all coming out of a phase where we were, clustered together to be able to deal with this situation and the issues. But I think going forward, as long as innovation comes into play, for example, I'll give you Next Digital, right? Today, when we do our annual operating plans, our focus is not just on linear television. Our focus is on what is the revenue associated with linear television vis-a-vis OTT. Our focus is what is the broadband that I can push out packages to also ensure my customers take linear television, OTT, as well as broadband. So I think effectively that works pretty strongly, Anil.
So great, fantastic. So, you've transformed into a video, broadband, and additional services company, which is what we are looking at addressing. So that's great. And when do the broadcast partners really start seeing a benefit to them, real benefit, an upscaling of what they can get for the content that they're creating? Their costs are going up, they're pressured.
So I think it's a matter of cohesive, of working together in collaboration, right? The process has only just started. And when the process did start in 2019, when the new regulatory framework came into play, when the process started, unfortunately, we got hit with the pandemic, and the pandemic has brought its own set of challenges with it in terms of connectivity and customer base. But I think as we've emerged out, if you look at the third quarter of fiscal 22, we're starting to see at least we're starting to see the lights at the end of the runway. I won't say the lights at the end of the tunnel, because that's an cliche term. But we're now able to see the runway clearly, and we know exactly how long the runway is and what is it that we need to do along the runway to get there. So I think that is something which will take time. How long will it take? It's like, saying how long is a piece of string. I think once we work together with the broadcasters, as we're doing, not just with the broadcasters, with our digital service providers, our last mile owners, when we give them a combined offering, when we give them a well-rounded offering, I think there's a tremendous amount of scope to take revenues up, Anil.
Fantastic. So what's your vision for Next Digital and for your wired cable service rather than the head in the sky service? What's your vision for that and over the next 5 years? That's the last question, and then we'll move into the panel discussion.
So, Anil, there are 4 things that we have to all be cautious about, right? And this is something that I have said in not so many words, of course, but it's the first time I'm saying it to you. There are 4 things I think that are very important. One is wired cable, okay, will continue to grow, albeit slowly, right? However, you will see significant growth in terms of broadband. And why? Because also the AGR order that came in, which is, the government has been very pro-industry. If you look at December, in November, October, the government brought in the AGR clarity, which has helped wired connectivity to grow, because we are struggling at 22 million wired homes. We'll certainly see an uptick happening. And I think Mr. Oja in the previous session also was alluding to that. So you'll see significant growth. The second was infrastructure sharing that the Ministry of Information and Broadcasting has announced. So they're very clear that they're looking at facilitating the growth of the industry. So I think we have to look at those 2 pieces. The third thing is broadband over satellite and regionalized OTT will start to make its inroads over the next couple of years. And the fourth, I think the most important thing that everyone has to be cautious of, the characteristics of the business will impact single product companies. The future belongs to those who can align their products. For example, I've said this, cable on its own, difficult. Broadband on its own, difficult. OTT on its own, difficult. But when you combine broadband, cable, OTT together, and you either internally or through external collaboration, I think you've got a really, really robust product. And the happy part about that all is that the changing dynamics of digital consumption, right, in terms of these 4 points that I mentioned to you, actually gives Next Digital a clear advantage. Because when you look at Next Digital and you look at the product portfolio, we've got Head in the Sky, which connects everyone to across 4,500 pin codes. We've got wired connectivity in the cities. We've got a broadband company that has crossed 750,000. We've got a tele-shopping and a content syndication company. So when you look at the key ingredients that a company requires to collaborate and grow, I think we've been able to have those 3 or 4 verticals very clearly in place, right? Whether it's infrastructure sharing, combo products, broadband, and of course, growth in terms of new digital products. So I think the industry is on the cusp of the next level of growth. I think every one of us who's a player in this industry needs to understand the significance of collaborating and ensuring that when we go out with a portfolio of products and services. And that is something for sure that can stand us for the next decade of digital growth.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. It was interesting listening to your perspective.
Thank you, Anil.